Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to my second live stream talk. The topic I'm going to talk today is the beauty of Baroque violin technique. So I'm going to talk about the violin technique based on the music, violin music by the composers who were also violinists before the middle of 18th century. And you will know how fast the violin technique growing in that time. Okay, before we move on to the violin technique, I want to talk about the basic technique on our both hands, left and right hands. So from my previous talk, I'm sure you all know the differences between the modern and Baroque violin. So for our left hand, the most different, I'm sure everyone would agree with me, which is just no chin rest. So how do we play violin without chin rest? And we couldn't put our chin on our on the violin. I'm sure from the beginning of 20th century, all the violinists, when they want to figure out how Baroque violinists, how they want to, how they play and how they shift, they had the same questions. So there are two ways to figure out. The first one is to look for paintings. I'm sure if you look for the Baroque painting, you can know how to hold violin and how to hold bow with everything. The second way is to look for treatise. I think I also mentioned last time. So the treatise actually, there was one treatise around in the middle of 18th century by Francesco Geminiani. Geminiani's treatise in the very first music example, he was teaching us how to shift. So let me show you. Okay. So without chin rest, our left hand, our thumb, we just had one more job to hold violin. So then now our thumb, we have an additional job. For me, it looks like our thumb is doing chin rest job. So when we shift, we use our thumb to hold, and then our four fingers shift first, just like chin rest. So what Geminiani taught us is the first thing, we put our violin and left hand in a regular place, and we practice the same note with different fingers, but without moving our thumb. For example, like this. You can see my left fingers, and this is the third finger. Just practice how to do 1, 2, 3, even 4 fingers. Just take turn. That is the way to practice how to shift. And how about our right hand? Our right hand, actually, I'm sure you know from last time, you all know Baroque bow have so many different size and also so many different weights. Plus, we use gut string. So I'm sure if you have been in the concert playing on Baroque instrument, I'm sure you'll notice why every Baroque string players, they put their right elbow so low, like this way. They don't play like this way. We don't play like this way. We play this way. That's because because of gut strings. For gut string, when we play, we really need to play deep into the string. What should I say? Dig into the string. Then it will make stable sound. This one is very, very different from the metal string nowadays. So this is why there's so many Baroque violin players also play this way. I'm sure you'll never see Baroque violin player play this way, like modern player. Okay, so those are all basic techniques for our both hands that I want to share with you. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so the next thing I want to share with you is the development of violin. Speaking to violin development, we just need to talk and we need to mention all the violinists in Baroque period and of course their violin works. So actually there were so many violinists in the Baroque period, and today I'm going to talk about 8 violinists. And I choose the most popular and also the most influential violinist to our technique nowadays. Okay, so the first violinist I am introducing is Arcangelo Corelli. Arcangelo Corelli, it is not English, so I'm just have some word for you. So from his name, I think it is very obvious. Corelli was an Italian violinist. He was also a composer. Not only this, he is also violinist, composer, violin teacher, and educator. So, okay, why Corelli is the very first one I want to share with you, how important he was and how influential, how huge of the influence. Okay, he is very, very, very influenced on our violin playing nowadays until now. So, okay, how important he is. Corelli was around the second half of 17th century to 18th century musicians. Before Corelli, the role of violin, or I should say the role of the instruments, they were just an accompaniment for vocal and dance. So that means the music of the instruments were not that complicated. I could say simpler or easier. So that means the technique was also not that hard. For example, for the technique for left hand, the position usually stay only at the first position of left hand. Even not goes to second position or even higher. And for the right hand, the faster note probably just usually crotchet, maybe quiver, but not too many that goes to semi-quiver or even shorter. So that's why Corelli was that important. So Corelli, after Corelli appeared, Corelli was the violinist. So he has lots of music work for strings and violin. So the most influential of his violin music is his violin sonata opus 5. His sonata opus 5, including 12 violin sonatas, which was 6 plus 6. The first 6 is more like a sonata form, usually 4 movements. The first movement usually very flexible, faster tempo, the first one. And the second movement usually is fugue. And the third one is slow movement. And the fourth movement usually is dance form, dance-like movement. And his second 6 violin sonata is more like dance form, which is the combination among Allemande, Courant, Sarabande, Jig, etc., all the dance form. I'm sure when I mentioned the number 12 violin sonata, you all know what it is. His number 12 is La Folia. It's still very popular until today. Okay, so what Corelli do for this technique for his Opus 5? Okay, so just like what I mentioned before Corelli, that chunk of time, the violin, for example, the left hand position, you just stay in the first position. But Corelli, his Opus 5, he let everything growing. For example, the position goes to third or fourth position. Some of the sonata goes to higher, but mostly they stay in the third and fourth. And for right hand, EQ violin music have much more fast passage and also much more technique like string crossing and bariolage, etc. And also for the fast movement, he usually put 1 or 2 bars of the cadenza in the end, which he wrote down, which is written down cadenza. And of course, the performers, you are welcome to add more ornamentation. So this is what Corelli do. Actually, there was more about Corelli, but maybe next time, if there is a topic just focus on Corelli, I will share more. Okay, let's move on. Okay, the second violinist I'm introducing is Francesco Geminiani. Geminiani was one of Corelli's students. And I'm sure from his name, you will know actually he was also Italian violinist. And Geminiani, he also have lots of violin music and also string music. But the most influential of work of him is his violin treatise. His violin treatise, The Art of Playing on the Violin. Actually, it's not very thick. It's quite thin. And half of his treatise is with words. He described how to play violin and how to work on our left hand technique, how to work on our right hand, how to play and how to do emotion type. That's what he's described lots of this stuff inside. And the second half is more like study exercise for violin. This exercise including everything. Okay, I have his treatise. I can show you a little bit. I could say it is more like a dictionary for violinist. So, okay. So this is his first half, like he just have lots of word in it. And the second half, just like what I said, the second, very first one, he teaches how to shift. Not only this, also including the like scale type, and in the end also have the chords, also have double stops, also and fast passage, etc. He even teaches us how to play ornament, how to play grace notes. So this is the most influential from Geminiani. And also the other reason this treatise is very important is it was the very first treatise dedicated to advanced violinist. Before Geminiani's treatise, there were some treatise for strings, but none of them is for advanced violin. Some of them was about just introduction to whole instruments. Some of them was very, very for beginners, how to play note. And even some of them, the contents is not even about music. It is just gossip, just like our newspaper today. So this is what Geminiani had. Okay, let's move on. Oops. Okay, let's move on to the third one. Okay, that's Italian. We should travel to different country. Okay, the next one is Heinrich Ignaz Biber. Okay, Biber was an Austrian violinist and composer. He was about the same age as Corelli. And then, of course, he's a violinist, so he has lots of music for string and violins. And but Biber's most special and most influential is his Mystery Sonata. Mystery Sonata, also called Rosary Sonata. The very special stuff in the Mystery Sonata is scordatura. What is scordatura? Okay, our violin today, 4 open string from low to high is G, D, A, E. The scordatura is or request by the composer. So just like Biber, he wants us performers to tune our open string to other notes just for the best acoustic of the tonality. So, okay, his Mystery Sonata, there are total 16 violin sonatas. Only the number 1 and number 16, they stay on the original tuning, G, D, A, E. From number 2 to number 15, the tuning, every song are different. For example, I have played number 2. I remember number 2 was A major. So the tuning in the beginning of the first page of the number 2, and Biber just wrote down, tune to A, E, A, E. Can you imagine writing tune to A, E, A? It was very fun, actually. I remember because it's A, E, A, E, and it's A major. So I remember when I was playing this note, and when I was playing some note related or some chords related to A major, I remember the violin, the whole violin, the wood was vibrating all the time. So this is the very special thing of Biber's. Even in after Biber, J.S. Bach, he also get idea from Biber. He also used scordatura for his cello music. Okay, after Biber, we go back to Italy. So there are 2 Italian violinists I'm just introducing together. The first one, I'm sure some of you have heard it, Joseph Tartini. Okay, who was Tartini? For the violinist, I'm sure you're very familiar, but Tartini, until nowadays, he's the most popular violin sonata is Devil's Trio. If you have played that one, I'm sure you know how tricky it is. And Tartini, he was an Italian violinist and composer in the end of the 17th century, I should say in the 18th century. And he was a violinist who making money through perform all over Europe. And another violinist I'm introducing is Francesco Veracini. I'm sure this name you all know is still Italian violinist. Francesco Geminiani also, they are at the same age as Tartini, also from Italy, and also the same job. Veracini also is very skillful violinist, and he also making money through performers all over the Europe. So actually now I think you can image the violin or the music environment. I'm sure the whole musicians was quite competitive. Okay, so there is a very little interesting story between Tartini and Veracini. So because it was very competitive, so and they all know each other because they just travel all the time. So the one day after Tartini, he listened to Veracini's violin playing, and Tartini was felt so embarrassed. He just feels, wow, he's so bad. So he ran away to an island around Italy, hiding there and practiced his violin for 1 year. And after 1 year, he finally started to play, to perform in public again. And after, of course, these 2 violinists, they have lots of violin works. And one more, also violinist, he's from Germany, but he has also a very interesting story with Veracini. His name is Johann Georg Pisendel. Okay, Pisandello, he was only a person in the end of 17th century and the whole 18th century. And he was also a very famous violinist in that time, but he was a German violinist. So that means Pisandello actually, he got to know J.S. Bach, he knows Telemann, he also knows Vivaldi. But the different thing between Pisandello and Veracini was Pisandello, he was not the violinist, travel and perform all the time. Pisandello, he was a concertmaster in the court orchestra in Germany. But the very funny story between Pisandello and Veracini was Veracini, in his later life, Veracini became a disabled person. And the rumor was the reason Veracini became disabled, it is because of Pisandello. Pisandello made Veracini jump from second floor to the first floor. That's why Veracini became disabled. And the all reasons of this is because professional jealousy. So this is the very interesting little story or even rumor between them. But you also can know actually how competitive the environment was. Okay, let's move on to the last two violinists I want to introduce. Okay, the next one, okay, Pietro Locatelli, also 18th century violinist, Italian violinist. Okay, how special Locatelli was? I think I will call Locatelli was the Paganini in the 18th century. Why I said this? Okay, not only he was a very, very good, a very extraordinary violinist. Locatelli, he had one opus 3, the art of violin. It is the difficulty of technique. It's, I could say, the same as Paganini's 24 Caprice. Okay, so let me introduce Locatelli first. Locatelli, he was from Italy. And in the beginning, he was also the violinist, perform and travel in the whole Europe. And he was the student of Corelli. And afterwards, then he moved to Holland. After he moved to Holland, he became a publisher. It's very smart of him. He was also a very good businessman. So he was publishing the music for musicians, for example, like Vivaldi, and he also got copyright from them. So seems he made kind of good money in that time. But he was also still playing when he was being a publisher. His violin work I just mentioned, Opus 3, The Art of Violin. It was published in the 1733, I mean the first half of 18th century. How special it is. Okay, this Opus 3 including 12 violin concertos. Not only this, each violin concerto is first and third movement. Locatelli, he added cadenza, his written down cadenza inside. And his written down cadenza actually at least the one whole page, or even 2 or 3 pages, the whole pages. And the difficulty of his whole Opus 3 is just like what I say, just like Paganini. If you want to know how difficult, okay, I categorize some of the technique I will share with you later. So the whole Opus 3, every cadenza actually, Locatelli, he didn't call he just called it capriccio, not cadenza. Capriccio is his written down cadenza. And after he's written down Capriccio, he marked cadenza. Then, because he wants the performers to improvise, to do ornamentation, their own ornamentation, then the orchestra tutti come in. Okay, so now you will know how interesting this work is. I'll show you a little bit. Okay, when I'm still looking for, I want to share with you the Locatelli. He totally let the whole violin technique grow to its very, very top of the Baroque period. For example, Corelli, like just what I mentioned, his Opus 5, he bring out our left position from first to third or fourth position. But Locatelli, this Opus 3 goes to 14th position. That's almost in the end of our fingerboard. So now you will know how tricky it is. And even Paganini, later I will demonstrate one very interesting capriccio for you. So even that one, I'm sure if you are very familiar with Paganini's capriccio, or especially the first capriccio, I'm sure when I play, then you will know where Paganini got idea from. Okay, the last violinist I want to share with you is, I'm sure everyone knows him, is J.S. Bach. Although J.S. Bach, his main job is not about violin. Bach, his 6 unaccompanied violin works. It's including everything, including not only technique, the whole musical is also very challenging for us. Okay, let's move on to the violin technique. So I categorized 9 violin techniques from the violin music by the violinist I just introduced. Okay. Those techniques, including high position, up bow staccato, chords, arpeggio, fast passage, string crossing, ricochet, double stops, and barriolage. You might feel very familiar because techniques, all techniques we also use today, probably very often. But have you ever thought, actually, those techniques already exist in the Baroque period? It is not appear in later time. It just appear in this time. And also remember, from Corelli to Locatelli to Bach, I just introduced, the whole technique was the technique pioneer for the violinist afterwards. Okay, let's go on. Okay, the first violin technique I categorize is high position. Just like what I said, I'm using Locatelli for an example. So Locatelli, he bring violin position to the very high. Actually, he tend to that solo violin have a higher range in his whole Opus 3. For example, I'm going to demonstrate his Concerto 2 because there's no continuo play with me, so I just play a little bit. So his introduction, of course, tutti for the orchestra. Then the solo violin comes in. So the tutti is like this. this is his theme of his Concerto 2. So that was 30. So when the solo violin comes in, he always lets solo violin play one octave higher. So this is solo violin part. Yeah, this is his theme for the solo violin. So actually, almost in these 12 concertos, every time when the violin solo comes in, always get higher octave. Just what, like I said, the highest position for this Opus 3 goes to 14, but I'm not going to demonstrate this one. Okay, the second one is up bow staccato. When I just play the introduction of the Concerto 2, I'm sure you probably hear some. So in the same Concerto 2, the second movement for solo violin, there was a big chunk of the up bow staccato. I just play a little bit for you. Yeah, there's a whole page is about that's up bow staccato. Of course, he combined not only up bow staccato, have the high position, etc. Okay, so let's move on. The third technique I categorize, which is chords. Speaking to chords, I'm sure everyone familiar. For example, like Chacun by J.S. Bach. In the beginning, it's just chords. Yeah, this is the example of chords. I'm sure it's happened a lot in the Baroque music. Another one is arpeggio. I'm sure in the Chacun including almost everything already. So the arpeggio, that's which in Chacun, and also Bach himself marked down arpeggio. Yeah, this is his arpeggio example. Okay, the fast passage, next one. Fast passage even happened even much more often in the Baroque period. I guess probably because of the bow. The function of bow, just like what I said, a bow was shorter and much lighter than modern bow. So that means for our right hands, it is easier to play fast passage. So in Chacun also have fast passage. Yeah, this is just fast passage example. Okay, the next one I just mentioned together is string quartering and record thread. Have you ever thought record check already have existed in the Baroque period? Okay, I'm taking Locatelli's Opus 3 for an example. And this is the one I want you to know if you are very familiar, Paganini's 24 Caprice. This, I remember the very first time when I see all the notes, I was just suddenly laughing. I think, oh my God, no wonder this. I think I know where Paganini got idea from. Okay, this is the Capriccio of the Concerto Number 4 by Locatelli. Yeah, actually, not only afterwards, they are just the record check. I just keep going on, going on. Remember the first Caprice by Paganini? It was just record check exercise. Actually, the same key E major and almost the same harmonic progression. But of course, Paganini had he developed until 2 pages. So this is the very interesting thing I found out in the very first time. And also in here also include string coursing inside. Okay, next two is double stops. I'm sure double stops I don't have to demonstrate anymore because everything, it's just too much music, including double stops. Chacon, of course, actually, as long as the music with fugue, then you just include in double stops. Okay, the last one is bariolage. What is bariolage? Bariolage is the fast notes and deal with every 2 notes, they have 1 open string to interchange. I'm sure this one you also see it very often in Bach. His Partita 3, E major, the first prelude, already have this. Yeah, this is bariolage example. Okay, these 8 techniques are I categorized from all the virtuosic violin works from the middle of 18th century. For nowadays, from our perspective nowadays, we probably will play it very often and we see it lots of time. But please remember, those techniques, they were all new revolution in that period. From Corelli, okay, I should say from Corelli to Bach to Locatelli, only very short 50 years. And see the violin technique, they already blooming like this way. Then you can see how fast the violin technique growing. From Corelli, before Corelli, just like what I said, with just very simple right hand notes and with first position of left hand. But Corelli bring it to the 3rd and 4th position. Corelli was just a pioneer of violin technique. And then until Locatelli, he bring out to the 14th position and with some crazy left and right hand technique. So, so these are all the technique development I want to share with you today. So thank you for watching today. The next topic I'm going to share with you is the choice of the tempo for Baroque string music. So I hope I will see you next time. Bye-bye.